Believe it or not, most efforts to implement technology within a church don't fail because of the technology. They usually fail because there's a lack of communicating the unique calling or discipleship strategy of the church. So nobody really knows which systems or processes need to be built to support that calling and that strategy. Now, I'm a licensed private pilot and have been for quite some time, but one of the things about, like, if I'm flying with a co-pilot, I need to show them what the flight plan is. I need to tell them what to expect. You know, if we're going from, say, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho out to Seattle, Tacoma, we need to discuss, okay, what's going to happen when we pass through Spokane? What's probably going to happen as we go out over Tri-Cities? What's going to happen as we get closer to Seattle, Tacoma? What should we expect? What are some of our changes that we're going to need to do? Otherwise, they're just a passenger and they can't really help me along the way. They can't help me man the radios. They can't help me with the navigation. They're not going to be able to help. They're just going to be kind of along for the ride. And in a lot of churches, this is the situation that you've actually got, where you've not really clearly communicated where things are going. And so a lot of the staff and a lot of the key volunteers, they're just kind of going along for the ride. They don't really know where things are going. So we need to focus in on three things. We need to focus in on the who, the where, and the how. Now, the who, God's probably called your church to reach out to a unique group of people. Now, in some situations, this could be a lot smaller of a group than in others, especially if you're in a large metro area. Like here, I'm in Singapore, it's over 600 churches. So you can actually be called to a much more niche group than, say, an area where there's 3 or 4 or 5 churches. You might have a little bit more broader group that you're being called to. But you need to look around your church and kind of ask yourself, okay, are we uniquely positioned for college students? Are we uniquely positioned for fitness buffs, fishermen, outdoorsmen, whatever it is? Kind of look at them, and that there's a good chance that if you look closely, there's an indication there of who you've been uniquely gifted already to reach out to. Second, that where. So that's pretty straightforward. It's probably going to be your region, but you're going to have to answer that question of, okay, if we're doing ministry, is it to the city? Is it to, the section of the city? Is it to the county? Are we going to go multi-site and have these places all over? And what do we do if somebody from halfway across the world, decides to start kind of interacting with us? Are we going to pastor them directly, or are we going to connect them with another church locally in their area? And that's a question you need to answer regarding where. Finally, that how. So the how, it comes down to, what are you actually going to do to make disciples? Are you going to be doing alpha? Are you going to be doing Christian ed? Is it small groups? Is it, volunteering, community events? Where do each of these things fall in line with your larger calling to make disciples? Are they, a lot of people now like to talk about the up, in, and out, right? The up is, growing closer to God. Out is outreach and reaching out to unbelievers. In is kind of that growing closer to and building community within your church. Where does your stuff fall in line with that? If you're older like me, there've been different acronyms and different ways of expressing that. I can remember CPR was a thing that we used to talk about 20 years ago. Same kind of thing. Where does it fit in? Everybody needs to be on the same page on where these fit in, because they need to know, are you a seeker-sensitive church? Is your Sunday actually outreach? Or is your Sunday actually up to grow the believers? Is it mostly teaching? Or is it really actually inward focused and it's for building community? You need to know what it is and how that is laid out. Now, sure enough, you might have a little bit of elements in each. You might have worship that's up. You might have one of my favorite things was donuts, where there would be an intermission with donuts. And, that was a very in kind of thing, because it was coffee and donuts, and everybody would kind of congregate around, have some donuts, they would chit chat, they would get to know each other. So there may be other things, but you need to kind of figure out what is the main thing that you're doing on these. small groups. Is your small group mainly for growing together, or is it mainly for Bible study going up? If you're on the same page, it's going to be a lot easier to focus on where people are on that discipleship path and what kind of steps and actions you need them to take to kind of move further along that path. So let me give you just a quick example. So make believe we're here in Singapore. I like to paddleboard, so we're going to do the who. We're going to say paddleboarders. Where? We'll do the Singapore, the east and northeast regions, because that's where I am. The how. So we can say in maybe like a weekly paddle session on Saturdays, right? And a post-service brunch. So we know that that's for building community and growing together. Then we could say out. Well, there's some paddleboard associations. We could do engagements and collaborations with those. And that would put us into touch with unbelievers within those. And finally up, we could do weekly Bible studies, and we could do one-on-one mentorship. And we would say, okay, these are the element areas where we're focusing on our in, out, and up. And so we'd communicate that with everybody, let them know this is the things we do, and this is why we do them. Then we're able to bring in the digital technology strategy. We would know, okay, there's paddleboarder associations and groups on Facebook, so we can get involved in those. We would know what church management system things that we would need to track. Are people attending? Are we seeing them regularly? Are they? What's our analytics for our YouTube Bible studies? Things like that. We would know and have some idea of how well we're doing as well based on that. And so having that strategy in place and communicating it leads us to be able to put the pieces in place to make sure we're being effective in our ministry. All right, that's all I have for you guys this week. It's been great talking to you guys this week, and I look forward to talking to you guys again next week. Okay, now tell everybody to like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe.
Yeah, like and subscribe.